Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the Voice of Reason. Today, we are continuing our coverage of the ongoing civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia. And first, our coverage today, we are going to focus on a couple of different areas. One of those areas is the continued strengthening of the Abiy Ahmed regime in terms of both forces and intelligence agencies that Abiy Ahmed continues to strengthen and find ways to increase the power and capability of the Prosperity Party and forces directly loyal and under his complete control. Also, we are continuing to see the fragmentation of the Ethiopian society. Specifically, we are continuing to see a civil war take place between elements of the Oromo Liberation Army fighting both the Abiy loyalist formations. Obviously, that failed Abiy loyalist offensive supported by certain elements within Oromo regional forces as well have apparently fully failed in that ongoing counteroffensive which was taking place both to the west and north of Addis Ababa, as the city of Ambo continues to be besieged by forces of the Oromo Liberation Army. Now, to make matters worse, we are now starting to see elements of Amharan society start to turn upon each other. We are now seeing elements of Fano, the paramilitary nationalist organization of the Amhara region that was utilized more or less as cannon fodder in the ongoing wars that took place in the Tigray region, and obviously during that great counteroffensive by the Tigrayan defense forces into the Amhara region. Those Fano elements were used by both the Amhara regional forces and obviously the actual Abiy loyalist federal formations as well. But now we're starting to see fighting take place in more than 6 different towns in areas in the northeastern part of the Amhara region. These elements of Fano are directly now fighting against elements of the Amharan regional forces that are apparently loyal to Abiy Ahmed, and then obviously the actual ENDF, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, the federal component that are directly loyal to Abiy Ahmed in terms of direct forces under Abiy Ahmed's control. And now we are seeing those elements of Fano, who were originally ordered to disarm and fall under regional forces control. Many of those units failed to adhere to some of those edicts and are now being physically besieged and attacked by the forces allied with either Abiy Ahmed or the Amhara regional forces. Now, what we want to do is look at the real focus that is taking place by the Abiy Ahmed regime to retain power. And it's very, very important to look at some of the processes that Abiy Ahmed is using to strengthen his grip on power. And this is very, very important. We've seen this take place in other regimes around the world, some of these internal security apparatuses. And obviously, right now, we're looking at roughly a multitude of different forces that Abiy Ahmed now controls. First and foremost, the largest of these forces is the ENDF, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. That is the largest force construct right now that Abiy Ahmed controls. It is the federal forces, the federal army, directly under the control of Abiy Ahmed. The next force is the newly established Republican Guard. We continue to see the Republican Guard expanding its role within the security apparatus of the Abiy Ahmed regime. Not only that, as we see some of these new prime minister palaces that are being built, they also have command and control elements that are also being built within the confines of the Republican Guard, attached to these prime minister residences that are now being built. So when Abiy Ahmed builds a new palace, he also builds a new command and control node and Republican Guard facilities attached to those complexes he is building, in terms of some of the newer palaces that Abiy Ahmed is now building for himself and members of his inner circle. And thereby you see the expansion of those Praetorian Guard forces, the Republican Guard, in terms of the continued expansion of those regime security elements directly under the command of Abiy Ahmed himself. So when you see the reddish beret, the maroon beret that Abiy Ahmed himself wears, that signifies those are elements of the Republican Guard, which he actually controls himself. Next is the expansion of the federal police forces. Prior to the conflict starting, the Ethiopian Federal Police Forces had under its command 5 divisions of what were at the time called riot control forces, riot control divisions. Each of these divisions were made up of roughly 3 battalions of riot control police. We do now know that these 5 to 6 federal police riot control divisions have been fully militarized. They have been expanded, and we believe that number now exceeds well over 10,000 members in these paramilitary divisions that again fall under the now the direct command of Abiy Ahmed. And we estimate these forces now are standing at around 5 to 6 divisions, anywhere from 4 to 10 battalions in each of these divisions, as they have expanded in scope, and obviously they have absorbed some of the regional forces as well into these federal police units that fall directly under the command of Abiy Ahmed. So you kind of have now 3 different forces. Obviously you have the Ethiopian Army, the ENDF, and then these parallel organizations that exist, the Republican Guard, and then the federal police forces that have also been fully militarized. So 3 completely separate regime security elements now that could be used. So for instance, the Republican Guard and the federal police forces could be used in tandem to put down any sort of coup d'etat in the larger military itself and the military apparatus. And then obviously you have the regional forces themselves. You have Amharan regional special police forces and special light infantry forces that could also be used as direct support and ally with Abiy Ahmed, or they could be used in some sort of coup prevention apparatus itself. And each of the regions have those forces themselves. But the reality, the main regime security forces again are one, the army, and then the next largest force would run in tandem would be the federal police forces, and then the Republican Guard forces as well. And as these forces continue to grow and strengthen, both in terms of monies being provided to these agencies and then the growth of the agencies, it's all designed to keep Abiy Ahmed in power in perpetuity. And that's kind of what we're seeing, and that's one of the issues right now we're seeing with some of these Fano rebellions that are taking place in the Amhara region. They fully understand that Abiy Ahmed, the Prosperity Party, used those forces when it was okay for those forces to be used against the Tigrayan Defense Forces, but when their purpose had ended, obviously they pose a threat to the power base of Abiy Ahmed. So now he is looking to basically remove that obstacle to his continued hold on power, and that includes the destruction and bringing down that Fano organization. And that's what we're seeing right now, which could lead to another inter-ethnic civil war inside now the Amhara region, much like we see now taking place inside of the Oromo region. So right now, in terms of the general scope of this ongoing civil war, and I would say at this point, it continues to be one of the largest conflicts taking place on the planet outside of what we're seeing right now inside of Ukraine. And obviously, before the Ukraine situation started, this was the largest conflict taking place on the planet Earth, and that's why I continue to cover this ongoing conflict. But right now, in terms of this very large former nation state encompassing more than 100 million people. Obviously, you have fighting taking place in the Oromo region. You now have fighting taking place in the Amhara region. You continue to see the Tigray region with sporadic fighting taking place in the north and in the west, and in some cases in the southwest as well. We continue to see the siege of the Tigray region with aid, food, and supplies being cut off in that ongoing effort to operate that anaconda strategy against the Tigray region. And fighting just rages all throughout this former nation state. And we'll obviously continue to cover and provide our analysis of the ongoing situation, and then obviously provide you, the viewer, with continued coverage. At the same time, please note it is very, very difficult to obtain information out of this area because of regime controls, and which limits the outflow of information that can be reported. And obviously that is done with intent by the Abiy Ahmed regime. But when we get information and we have information to report, we will absolutely cover it when we can. That's all we have for today. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for obviously more content to come. Have a good day, everybody.